Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, the Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
What's going on, y'all?
What's going on, man?
Nothing much. So this week, my aunt sends me these text messages every week, and she sent me a little meme this week that really caught my mind. And it said that your happiness depends on your mindset and not your bank account. And I was like, you know what? I feel like that would be an interesting topic because I remember a place where my happiness was very dependent on whatever I saw on that computer screen. And so it made me think like, well, why did I used to let that number control how I was thinking in the first place anyway? So I just wanted to come talk to y'all about which do y'all think controls the happiness, the mindset or the bank account?
I would say now where I'm at, I would say, it's the happiness, not the bank account. I remember at one point in my life, I felt like I need to see it in order to feel happy and feel abundance. And then when I got it, I still felt empty and I felt like something was missing. So I ended up being in this cycle of continuously chasing until I realized that really it's not the money, it's just the mindset. So when I sort of dived into my mindset and changed how I was thinking, how I viewed things, then that's when I tapped into my happiness.
And you see, I think that's spot on too because it's so funny. I remember being in college and I had, at what that time was an insane amount of money to what I thought my mind was. And I was like, man, I'm just gonna hold on to it. I'm just gonna save it and I'm never gonna spend it. But then in doing that, I was so restrictive on where I was spending the money that I would literally go through and operate as if I was dead broke. And so I was living through life like I'm dead broke, but have the money right here. But I would never touch it. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna keep saving. I'm just broke, y'all. This is just what it is. And that might have been the worst little 2 months that I had during that time because why was I even living that way? It was I don't know, I think it's interesting how sometimes you can have the money and your mindset is keeping you in a place where you don't feel like you have it. But I also remember times where during the same period of time where I was in college and there was no money, but having the time of my life, feeling like a millionaire during that time. Right. And so that's when it really clicked to me that the bank account doesn't really dictate how I have to feel, but for some reason it's a very convenient and normal way for me to fall into. And I was like, nah, I gotta flip that.
Yeah. I definitely had a point in my life where my bank account affected how I was feeling. I noticed that on payday, I feel amazing. I feel like I can take on the world on payday. But when it's not and things getting tight, then I'm in a mood or whatever. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, I'm feeling like this on payday, and it's everything is going right. But it's because I'm feeling the feeling I'm having is just so good and high. My energy is so high on payday. So I'm like, how can I live like this every day? And so that's what I try to focus on now is feeling great every day and vibrating high every day.
Gotcha.
And not just when I got some money.
I think too, even now, I sort of, I have to catch myself, and it's almost like a tug of war battle sometimes, as to where, from a 3D point of view, I may not physically have it, right? And I may have that feeling of a lack of dang, I ain't got it, or so since I ain't got it, I can't do X, Y, Z. So I almost catch myself being in a state of lack, right? And then I remind myself, I'm like, hold up, money come to me easily. You know, so it's almost like an affirmation. I keep that in my mind, and I keep telling myself that. And then regardless if I physically don't have it, I don't feel as though I don't have it. I feel like I do have it. And then before you know it, some way, somehow, depending on how the day goes, my whole day just goes by smooth, and I really don't have to spend no money. Or I may wind up getting my, receiving money. So I think that's something that everybody can sort of remind themselves throughout the day. If they sort of have to go through that tug of war battle, just take a pause out and just be like, hold up, money come to me easily, or just remind yourself.
Yeah, one thing I've been saying lately is like, I'm not gonna worry about money. I'm gonna let money worry about me.
There you go.
And like when you said one time, you was like, treat money like a person, and I'm like, if I treat money like a person, who want to be around somebody that's worried about them all the time? Like if I'm worried about money all the time, they don't want to fool me. So now I just let money worry about me.
But do you want to fool with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Topic is so funny too because when I read the meme, it took me to a very specific memory, and I'll never forget. We were going to Vegas one time, and I didn't have the money at the time, and like everything, but I was just never changed my mindset of like we're going to Vegas. So like I didn't have the money at the time. But I was like, nah, but we're going to Vegas or whatever. Just kept planning and kept my spirits up as if we were going to Vegas, and literally everything that I needed to aligned perfectly for it to line up and like have a perfect trip. I think I ended up it's actually wild how everything happened. I missed a flight, but missing the flight caused it to come up as a free flight, which helped me to end on the back end. And then I ended up with extra spending money. I ended up not missing a thing. I was like, oh, I'll just have a good time on the flight. And then when I get there, I just go straight to the little bar or club that we are or whatever. And I look like I didn't even miss a thing. And so that might be the best example I could think of the mindset creating the happiness, and as a result the money started to flow, and not even just the money, but the things that I wanted the money for started to flow and connect as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point, is that when you're happy, you will have money, or you'll have the things that you want money to buy. However, the statement that happiness depends on a mindset, not your bank account. I don't know. I agree with everything y'all say, everything that y'all have said. However, I remember a time in my life where I paid all of my bills with my credit cards. So meaning I didn't have any money, and I was just going into debt with each bill cycle, each payment cycle. And I would go buy these money orders, and it would be this long list of money orders that I've purchased with my credit card. And so, times were dark and stuff like that for, mentally and financially. But then when I got my first real job and I could pay those bills with no problem, it was like a weight was taken off of me, and I really was happy. But of course it was fleeting. However, the thing about it is, when you are under a huge amount of stress, it's hard to peek your head out and change your mindset. And so what I would like to ask you all is, you were I was feeling like this, but then I started changing my mindset. Specifically, when you change your mindset, what did you change? What are you doing? What are you thinking differently?
For me, I was thinking more of the aspect of money is energy, and so if I'm thinking money is energy, then that's going to change how I feel about money. So if I'm feeling like money, then regardless if I so-called physically don't have it, I technically have it, if you know what I'm saying, if that makes sense. So that's something that I applied for myself to shift my energy and my feelings.
Yeah, for me, it's just applying what I always say, putting more of my mind and energy on what I do want and not what I don't. So once I did that, things just flow differently when I'm in that space.
And I think it was kind of gradual for me. Like I think I remember thinking in different phases. Like I remember the first phase was, well, okay, what do I feel like I'm missing because I don't have the money? And then when I started thinking about those things, and I was like, well, am I missing those things really? And then that's when I would usually come up to the realization that like, well, no, I usually am enjoying most of the things that I would want to do like now, and it's another way for me to reach it. And so that's kind of what first started my thinking of like, all right, like it's not the money that I need. It's like I want the money to do certain things. And so once I started realizing that I wanted the money to do certain things, it became a lot easier to think of, well, it's a bunch of different ways to get into that. And that's kind of what changed my mindset. And then as a result, doing this, and then you just start thinking of different things, and it's like, okay, like Steven just said, money is energy. That was a big motto for me last year, especially because especially throughout my job of fundraising, because it's like you're so heavily involved with money and asking people for money. I really took in the motto of like money is energy. So if I want the money, I need to feel like the best version of me. And like the best version of me isn't the one that's worrying about what I don't have because I don't have the money. And so that's kind of what it was a whole long process. But also I like this topic too because we're asking about like getting the happiness, and I feel like the period that I'm in and like the transition I'm in life right now, as I'm on what I call a extended vacation, as I'm searching for the right fit for me in the next position, it's like I've noticed that like when I talk to people, it's sometimes surprising that like I'm so upbeat and very happy. But I feel like for me that's very important because again, the minute I feel like I start not being myself and I start losing my pure happiness or like my genuine happiness is when I would start feeling like, oh, things are down, like what's happening? Like, am I ever gonna figure out anything? But like not as long as I'm feeling happy, but as long as I'm genuinely feeling love and feeling like I'm connected to everything and like really knowing that like, no, this is like, I think that, again, your perspective and like your perception of things really does lead to how you view things, and it does lead to what your mindset is. And so like the way that I'm viewing it as a vacation is like, I feel like that is making sure that I keep it in a way that I'm viewing it and keeping my happiness at all times, like, because I think that that's very important. I think that at times you can hit an obstacle and it can feel like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get over this, or like now this is my situation, but I am able to do this every week to know that that's not even my situation. It's literally just a part of the story. And so I think that it's definitely important to be genuine and authentic in your mindset, because that's truly what's going to lead you to your happiness and also open up the doors for what you want to build as your true version of happiness.
To piggyback off of what you said, Teron, it made me think about times before, like at the very beginning stage of my journey. I had everything that I needed, but my perspective I couldn't see it at that moment, right? So my mindset was in a state of lack, and I always seen things as to where I didn't have enough, right? So as time went on and my perspective shifted, right, I'm like, dang, okay, I'm making enough money now as to where all of my financial things are, needs are getting taken care of. As to where at one point I was making the money, but I felt like I didn't have enough. I was depleted, and by me feeling like that, I always viewed it as to where I didn't have enough. So everything around me just felt like I didn't have enough, right? And now it's like I have everything, but that was the biggest key, realizing that I have everything already, which led to me being more happy. Mm-hmm. It led to me being more abundant, And I think a lot of the times, some people we get caught up in seeing things as to where we don't have enough, or we get caught up in the lack mentality and not really understanding that we have everything that we need already. Because if we're operating in that mindset of we have everything that we need, you really wouldn't understand what it feels like to be in lack. You always be in a mindset of abundance, and so you'll have more awesome things come to you, and your happiness will be a little bit better, I guess.
And also, I think, like when we start to let things outside of us control whether we happy or not or sad, like I feel like when we wake up in the morning, it's like a clean slate. And then if I walk and do something and something I don't like happen, now that it took my mood, like just letting all these things outside of us control how we're feeling. And it's like, well, do I love myself? And it's like all these things outside of us, and then it's like, well, I'm more than that because I'm still okay. Like these things can't control how I'm feeling. I control that. So.
And I think what all of y'all have just said is just so important. The thread that ties it all together is really that we are creators, and that it's our own imagination that allows everything to manifest before us. And so to the degree that I can believe that I already have it now, I'm already it now, I'm already abundant, I'm happy, we can decide to be happy. Like we don't have to wait until something outside of us says, okay, now you can be happy. Like we get to decide. And in every moment we can decide again. And like I could get up on the wrong side of the bed and be like still thinking about what happened yesterday and, you know, get caught up in that cycle. But in any second, I can change the course of that.
All right.
And I think, you know, just real quick, I think that the last part of what you just said is so important too, knowing that at any moment you could change it, because I think that it's so easy to get caught up in that snowball effect of, well, once one thing happened, then another thing happens, and another thing happens, and you just feel like, I just can't stop it. But it's like, no, you literally can stop it. Like, you can decide right now, like, all right, that's what happened earlier, but like now, we're starting the day over from here, and here we go. So I think that is so key. Because I think that I remember so many times in my life where you just, one bad thing can happen. It could be something small. Literally wake up and like just need to go stop at Wawa and put air in the tire, and I will let that sidetrack the whole day. And it's like, why?
But I also like what you said though, Arved, when you said pretty much we have a choice. And that's the biggest thing too, like if you are aware that you have a choice, that you are in control of your own happiness, that will lead you to happiness where you really, you know, where you want to be at. And I've been using that for myself in my everyday life, like just always reminding myself, because every day I'm not in a upbeat mood, you know. So yeah, that's something I will remind people too.
Thank y'all for discussing this topic. I do think that it is important to just remind ourselves that we get to control what our happiness is decided by, and it's not things outside of us. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting topic. I don't know if we can pull it off, but we did. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us as well. And we look forward to chatting with you again next week. Until then, this is Arved.
And this is Steve.
Teron.
Rodney.
Bye, y'all.